attacks in the first in the nation primary. Coming up in the Cloakroom. Hi, I'm Bosse, and welcome back to the Cloakroom, the video magazine from the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy. Two-time presidential contender Steve Forbes was back in the first in the nation primary state, stumping for Texas Governor Rick Perry, who's spending his time in Iowa ahead of Tuesday's first in the nation caucuses. Forbes talked about the presidential candidates' competing tax plans at a business breakfast, co-sponsored by the Concord Chamber of Commerce, the New Hampshire House Business Coalition, and the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Representative Smith. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you? Will Smith. Good to see you.
Hi. My pleasure.
So why are we in the position we are today? This is why I'm supporting Rick Perry. This is not the new normal. This is the new abnormal. This is the first time since the 1930s we've had such a pitiful recovery from a severe downturn. Normally in a severe downturn, you get at least a sharp upturn, then the question becomes, can you sustain it? But to have such a feeble recovery from a downturn is highly unusual. And then that raises the question, what are the headwinds that are keeping us back? Now, I know none of you can remember the 1970s. It's called pandering. I tried it in politics, didn't get me anywhere. So I'm a surrogate. But in the 70s, we put major barriers, and Reagan removed them. So what are the major barriers today? What are the things standing in the way and creating this abnormal situation and holding back that kind of entrepreneurial energy that Ian and others exemplify? One of the first and very important ones is the most boring subject in the world, monetary policy. And I know it's early in the morning. I know the eyelids get heavy very easily. And I'll just give you a travel tip on monetary policy. If you ever find yourself in an airplane, in coach, middle seat, on the runway, watching your life pass away, you want a little bit of elbow room with your seatmates, start talking about monetary policy. Rick Perry understands, which is why he wants Bernanke out at the Federal Reserve, that you have to have a stable dollar. This is not a partisan thing. John Kennedy said the dollar should be as good as gold. So stop trashing the dollar. Very, very important. Boring subject, but absolutely critical. If the Fed hadn't printed so much money, we never would have had the housing bubble. The juice would not have been there for it. You never would have had the sovereign debt crisis on the scale we're having in Europe, because the Europeans followed suit. When we started to print too much money, they started to print too many euros. So that's a critical headwind. Another one, of course, is the binge spending. Whenever you hear the word stimulus, clutch your wallets, clutch your credit cards, kids cover their eyes. Stimulus is a nice word for saying, where does the money come from? It does not come from Mars. It does not come from manna from heaven. It comes from you, either through borrowing, taxing, or printing money, which is another form of taxation. Why in the world do we have a healthcare crisis? People say, well, it's because we're getting older, we need more healthcare, it keeps getting more expensive. But think of it, in any other part of your life, if people want more of something, it's seen as a great growth opportunity. People want more vehicles. Well, a lot of manufacturers in Detroit and elsewhere would be glad to help you out. You want more donuts. One individual here, Ian, would be glad to help you out. People want more apps. A lot of writers would be glad to help you out. So why is the demand for healthcare seen not as a great growth opportunity, but as an unmitigated disaster? It's because we don't have real free markets in healthcare. We have pieces of it, which is why we still create more new pharmaceuticals, more new medicines, more new medical devices in the rest of the world. But it's a crazy hybrid system. We have a disconnect between providers and consumers. The government's mucked the market up.
Well, Mr. Forbes, welcome back to New Hampshire.
Good to be here, thank you.
You've been through this twice before yourself as a candidate. What is this week and next week like for somebody running for president as Iowa and New Hampshire start voting?
It's like the end of a marathon. You just pump and do more and more, knowing that people now are finally going to make up their minds, especially in a race like this where half the voters say they're willing to change their minds right up to the time of the vote.
You ran in '96 and in 2000 as a businessman and entrepreneur. The candidate you're backing this time, Texas Governor Rick Perry, is running on his record in the public sector. Do you see that as a distinction between your campaign and his campaign?
Well, I think Rick Perry has demonstrated in the executive level as the governor of the second largest state in the union, and a state that has the most successful economy in a large state, that he's capable of governing. And the key thing is he's got the right principles, the right policies, and can translate those principles and policies into effective action. So people can talk a good game. He's played a good game.
The three governors in the race, Governor Perry, Governor Romney, Governor Huntsman, have all put together detailed economic plans. What do you see as the key distinctions between those that has you supporting Governor Perry?
Well, on the tax issue, I think Governor Perry gets the gold medal, and there's no silver or bronze compared to the other two governors. He wants to jump the entire 10 million word tax monstrosity, replace it with a single rate, generous exemptions for adults and for children. If you're a family of four, $60,000 of your first $60,000 is exempt from federal income tax. Governor Romney, I'm not quite sure where he stands. It's a weak cup of tea. He has a 59-point program, and as others have pointed out, God only has 10. And Governor Huntsman has a little more complicated plan than Governor Perry. So in terms of simplicity and directness, I think Perry wins by the proverbial country mile. Governor Perry also, I think, has had a better record in terms of job creation and a good fiscal record than Governor Romney had in Massachusetts. And on health care, Governor Perry does not believe in forcing people to buy insurance as Governor Romney did in Massachusetts.
And finally, you're back on the campaign trail, this time as a surrogate. What's that like?
Much more fun. I don't have to do it 24/7.
Excellent. Mr. Forbes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For now, Forbes and Huntsman have the Grand Estate to themselves, but the campaign trail here will get very crowded next week. Any candidates who survive the Iowa caucuses will descend on New Hampshire Wednesday morning. I'm Bosse for the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy. Thanks for joining us in the Cloakroom.